Hello, hello. We'll let people trickle in for a little bit. 5 o'clock here in Costa Rica, wherever you are, it's a different time. Welcome. We'll continue to let people trickle in just for a little second and we'll get started soon. I hope everyone's having a great night or a great morning or whatever time it is. Everyone's good? Put it in the chat. How are you feeling? Let's see. Wonderful. Okay, cool. We ready? Are you guys ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Um, and most of you with us today are past guests, and so it's great to see you again. Myself, Ben, and Dr. Jeff are joining you, well, two of us from Costa Rica, and we're really happy to be here with you tonight and to see you again. Tonight, we're doing something a little bit different, and the topic of the webinar this evening is really around integration. So many of you, although perhaps not all of you, have been to Rythmia. You've gone through the Rythmia Way program. You've received your miracle or experienced that life-changing breakthrough that you were hoping to get when you came to Rythmia. And then you went home. And today we're really going to talk about that process. And I'm sure many of you are just really, really experiencing great advancement in your life. And some of you might be trying to land back home. You might have been to Rhythmia maybe even last week. And so there might be questions that you have. We have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. And we really want to spend the time to explore why integration matters, some of the common challenges that can arise when you get home, and also how to find your way back if you feel like you've drifted after the insight or that breakthrough that received when you're on site. We're going to have the beginning of this webinar, we're going to have some Dr. Jeff and Ben sharing some of their insights on integration. And then for the last 15 minutes or so, we're going to open it up for a question and answer period. So please have your questions ready. And yeah, Ben, Dr. Jeff, you ready to get started? Okay,
Let's do it.
wonderful. So firstly, I'd just like to do a quick introduction of both of them and myself. So my name is Jacob. I'm the general manager here on site in Costa Rica. And I'm joined by Ben Decker. Ben Decker is our holistic director here at Costa Rica and is responsible for all of our holistic offerings that we have here. And Dr. Jeff is our chief medical officer at Costa Rica, here in Costa Rica. And we're really happy to be here with you tonight. So hi, guys, and thank you both for joining.
Pleasure.
And if it's all right, Dr. Jeff, I want to start this off by throwing a question to you, and it's perhaps the most basic question and a great place to start. And really, what is integration? Let's just start there. Let's define the terms.
Okay, so I love integration, and a big part of healthcare in general is being able to use integration in a way that is the most successful. So, just to give it a broad definition, it's the use of the tools that you acquired at Rhythmia and putting them into practice in your life. So, when you come across a situation that in the past would trigger you to feel sad or trigger you to be anxious, or a relationship that's hard that you would maybe not handle it appropriately. Integration is in those moments you do things differently and you shift how you used to be with a new set of tools that you achieved at Rhythmia. And for me, integration is really, I don't want to say more important than the program itself, but every part of the program, on site and after, have a lot to do with you. And so that post recovery or post intervention or post integration part for you at Rhythmia is super key because it helps you transition home in the most effective manner and integrate into your life all the things that you're trying to achieve so you can be happy and successful.
Anything you want to add on that, Ben? And one thing, one lens that maybe I'd want to put on it is like, because you're here also witnessing breakthroughs every week. right? And I think maybe sometimes people having that hesitancy of going back home after achieving this. And so, like, I guess, do you have anything to add on like what that integration might look like they come home? Like, what are some of those practices, and then why you think that's important?
Well, I think that that's a great definition that Dr. Jeff just gave for what integration is. One of the ways that I like to think of it is it's living in integrity with your breakthrough. So I like that word integrity and its relationship to integration. It's a good way to remember that. Integrity has a lot of gravitas. That's a very serious, dignified word. And so it reminds us of those deeper, more subtle, more reverent, dignified experiences that come through in our breakthroughs. And that's really what it's about. So some of the practices that we always recommend here, just today, I taught the class where we introduced this. We say one of the first things to do is have a daily practice of any kind where you're coming back to yourself. It sounds really subtle and it might sound super simple, but the truth is, having a daily practice where you choose to go back to your intentions that you had at Rythmia, where you have seen who you'd become, you'd merge back with your soul at all costs, and you've healed your heart. That daily practice of coming back to your soul, coming back to your heart is a huge part of it. Other simple things we can go into more detail, but checking in with your food, making sure that you're making good, healthy choices that are right for you. That looks different for everybody, but eating clean like you do here. Staying connected with healthy friends, maybe some of the friends that you met here. Staying connected with the resources that we provide. Staying in the vibe essentially. Thinking about the things that helped you in your breakthrough, helped you in your process here, and bringing them, integrating them literally into your regular life. Maybe switching up some of the music that you're listening to, switching up your daily routine, things like that, little things like that, that help you connect back to that energy, the feeling that you felt when you were here.
I think too, to add on top of that too, it's like, you know, we want to have a magic bullet just as human beings. We like to just say, okay, I went to Rhythmia, I did my week, I'm home, I should be fine, everything's great. And in a lot of ways, that is true. However, it really takes the work that Ben just explained to put in that effort to make it actually be successful for you long term. You've been in so much pain and so much discontent prior to coming to Rhythmia that you really just feel so great when you're there. And after you have your breakthroughs and get your miracle, that you just hope it's over and you can just now coast a little bit. And in a lot of ways, you do deserve a bit of a break from all of the pain and turmoil you've been through. But if you lower your guard and you don't incorporate those things that Ben mentioned and the things we're going to talk about in this webinar, you can end up back in the same place that you were prior to Rhythmia. So we want to make sure that you don't have that happen in this webinar. We're going to give you some tools on how to get past those rocky moments.
You guys know that famous phrase that Jerry used to say when he would teach all the classes, you can't undo it, but you can re-screw it.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
perfect.
not, yeah, it is perfect for integration. It's like you
Yeah.
can go back to those familiar places, and a really good integration strategy is not going back to those to the best of our ability. Something that's coming up right now that I just want to share is when you come here, one of the first things that you hear is Jerry's story, Jerry's introduction to the medicine. And so we're all familiar with it, right? We've heard it, we've talked about it, we've read his book, Shit the Moon Said. And on Thursday, either Dr. Jeff or myself usually teach the New Heart Afterglow Afterglow class. And in that class, we talk about Jerry's integration. And he was flying high, you know what I mean? Like he's feeling great. He left. He's even like seen people in the airport and he's like, you don't have to be unhappy. He's feeling it. He's in the vibe. He's like an enlightened master. He feels like he is at least. Then after a few days back at home, the crash happened. And so he didn't have an excellent app, playlist. He didn't have integration coaching and all that kind of stuff. He didn't have the infrastructure. So something that's always been so inspiring to me is that's where this entire integration plan came from, is the very visceral need that our friend Jerry had when he had his experience.
I'd like to pick up on something that you said, Dr. Jeff, there, which was if you let your guard down. And I want to know like exactly what you mean by that. Um, yeah, first, why don't we start there? Yeah.
Good. So a lot of you, when you came to Rhythmia, you had some goals and you had some things that you were working on. Some of us have a temper. Some of us can't find the right job. Some of us are having problems with relationships. And we saw through the process of our intentions who you've become, then you healed it and merged back with your true self, and then you healed all of that trauma and that pain. So now there's these moments in your life that have been challenging. And some people might not struggle with anger. Some people might have that under control, but you might have an issue with you're always, throwing in the towel on a relationship before it gets too intimate and you have trust issues. So what I mean by what I said is that it's in those moments where you know you're vulnerable that if you don't employ the tools that you have, that's where you can fall back into the old ways, or you can just be on coast cruise control and not really handle those situations. Like if you've ever been in therapy before, if you're in a good therapy session, your therapist will give you some tools and they'll say, talk to your wife this way or talk to your spouse this way instead of the old way. And then you practice it and you do it, and then all of a sudden it works. And so that's what we're talking about at Rhythmia, is that we're giving you these tools that in those moments you have to use them, and it's proactive. You have to be aware of those things that are triggering to you in order to not let it slip by and just kind of be on cruise control.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
those tools are hyper individualized. When you come to Rhythmia, there's sort of the wide path, but then we always have to find our path within that path. And we always have to find, okay, well, where was my split? What did that look like for me? Who have I become? And so you start to find the more intimate version of that. And through the process of the medicine, as it unfolds, as you come to the classes and do all the different things, you have all these different moments where those key insights that Jeff's talking about, they come up. We realize, wow, I've actually been super hard on my mom this whole time. And I've been idolizing my dad. And actually, I could be a lot easier on my mom. I could be a lot more forgiving. I could be a lot, we start to see those things that are highly individualized. And so part of what you're doing while you're here, we always make these recommendations. If you have a really big consult or a really important vision, write it down, journal about it. We have in the Answer Is You, there's all different kinds of opportunities and different classes here to make notes of those key breakthroughs. And so that's the part that's going to be 100% individual for every person who comes through here, is that they have to really, really remember as intimately as possible what their own breakthrough was on the medicine and in their process here. And so
Yeah.
when we find those intimate breakthroughs where I'm realizing that I've been relating to food or substances in a way that's super toxic or unhealthy, or I've been navigating, like the examples that Jeff was saying, I'm talking to my wife in a way that wasn't working. So in this case, your own self or your own higher self or the process sort of facilitates those tools, and you come to realizations on your own, and you start to realize, wow, I actually have so much abundance around me. I can be really grateful. Or you start to realize the intimate shifts yourself. And so that's why when we talk about integration, we give these broad tools similar to when you're here, where we have like the yoga and the intentions and everything. But once again, the individual is called to find their own path within that path, where they say, well, what were my big breakthroughs? What were the things that stood out to me? Well, I did realize this, and this. Mm. So reflecting on your own particular breakthroughs is where those key tools are going to be coming, because in this case, you're the one that came to those realizations through the process. It's not a therapist that gave you those tools.
Hmm. I have my next question is I'd say there's a couple questions in it. And I think that for all the people that are listening to, and again, in various stages of their integration process and their landing process back at home, like one question is that like, and I know we addressed that in some of our in our classes here at Rhythmia, but it's like if someone is feeling, like maybe they're struggling a bit landing, Well, my first question would be to both of you, is that a common thing? That would be the first one. And then the second question that I would ask is like in relation to the answers that you both gave on the previous question is like what if so, what are some of those common challenges that people might face once they get home?
So it is very common to, for at least 2 weeks or longer, when you get home, to have a bit of a dip in your mood and how you're feeling because you're transitioning with a new set of tools. And also, I always make the analogy, you've been walking around your whole life with a backpack full of rocks, and you've released that backpack, you've dropped it at Rythmia, you let go of all the trauma, all the pain, all the unresolved stuff, and now you're lighter on your feet. And that takes a certain amount of coordination that's new to build those muscles in a different way so you can be stable. So there is a natural transition, and people do feel a bit down. And I feel some people even feel like more depressed for like a short while than they were before. But that's because the psyche, the neurochemistry, the behavioral stuff, the cognitive, all of that is coming together in a new way. So as you adjust, there's sort of trusting the unknown path is sort of what's happening, because people often ask me, they say, I've never trusted anyone in my life. How am I supposed to start trusting now? Well, I don't blame you. It's hard. It's a little scary. Like, how could you all of a sudden just have that tool? Well, we talk about the differences between when you had your trust shattered as usually a young child, and now as an adult, that you can start to trust people and let people in slowly. Because what's the worst case scenario if you trust somebody now as an adult and they disappoint you? You have hurt feelings. It feels sad, but you're not going to die. And that is the instinct that children have in a under the age of 12. If they don't have their trust met and they don't have confidence in their caregivers or their environments, what happens is they feel threatened with their lives. That's its instinct for survival that we all have. So it's also bridging that sort of fear and just knowing, okay, there's a transition period. Most of us, it's 2 weeks after Rhythmia. Some of us, it lasts longer. You know, I've been dealing with so many things for so long in such a hard way. I need to be easy on myself. Like Ben mentioned, be easy on myself and let myself transition in this way. And I'm sure Ben can explain as well some good things and some kind of what are these challenges looking like, right? Guys, that was your second part of the question. But well, I don't know. What do you think, Ben? Does that sound like about what you deal with as well?
For sure, for sure. I agree with everything you said. It's really common, to answer the first part of your question. Yeah, it is common to have some type of recalibration process when you're coming back. It's not all heavy, it's not all bad, but it is common for that to be part of what happens. Just like when you're in ceremony, it's common in the same night to have something really beautiful happen and something really challenging happen. It's not quite as extreme, of course, but you do feel a greater range of your emotions. So the one thing that we want to really keep in mind is when you've come through this whole process here, you have gone through a process, you've gone through a big change. But when you go home, the world you're stepping into hasn't gone through any change. And so it'll look very familiar and it'll seem very familiar, but it will not be familiar. It will be new territory because you're new. Nothing else changed, but you did. And so we have to treat ourselves. When we do the soul merger work and we reflect on that in the different classes, sometimes we'll review the idea of like reflecting on the younger self. And sometimes one of our favorite integration recommendations is to actually have a photo, maybe on your phone, of yourself when you were a young child. And so the practice is when you start to think about meditation, breath work, yoga, eating healthy, and thinking about myself as a young child, all in the context of stepping back into the world that I am from, but I just had a rebirth. I just had a complete transformation. It's like being really, really patient with new territory and letting it be new territory. If you've got a relationship where maybe you've got a pattern that's not really good, you want to approach things slowly. There's sometimes we have these big breakthroughs and we're like, oh my God, you know what? I got to quit my job, divorce my wife, move to Brazil, whatever. We sometimes have like stories that are really exciting. We always say, let that energy even integrate. and something settles in, and really, through letting it land, we start to realize that middle path of what's really right for us.
I
And
love
so it,
that. And
it has a lot to do with sort of the balance.
I think, too, to answer Jacob's second part to this, I think what happens to Bill and what you're saying, Ben, is that, in family systems theory in psychology and mental health issues, when you have a family system, which could be your actual family, or it could be your work family, or your community family, or your friend family, any system that exists, when one of those people shifts, and in this case, what we're talking about is shifts for the better or becomes enlightened or healed or more positive, every single person in that family system is required to make an adjustment. And the healthier the family system, the more on board with that healthy shift that you've made that they will be. But the more unhealthy the family system, the more pushback and resistance you're going to feel. And so if I think about my blood family or my relationship family that I have, when I made my shift, everybody was really excited and they thought it was amazing because they saw that I was happier, and they're pretty, healthy themselves, and it was great. But I know that's a luxury. A lot of people don't have that. You might have gone back to your family, and they were really happy about making you the scapegoat, and they didn't want to ever deal with their problems, and you were a great excuse because you had your own struggles, and you come back and you're no longer in the victim mode, and then everybody around you is like wants you back there. So they're trying to kind of push you and keep you down. And that's a big part of the intentions that we teach for the returning alumni. We call it the 9, and that's something that I teach on Mondays, and Ben teaches it too when I'm not there. Freedom from the opinions of other people. That's a big intention that we talk about as returning guests come back to Rythmia. We have a set program for you guys to come and learn different intentions. Some of you, I'm sure, have already done that because you've already been back a second time. But that's a big thing to realize, that your system you're in, the healthier it is, the more on board they'll be, the more encouraging, and they want to shift. You've brought friends and family to Rythmia. That's a part of that. But the more unhealthy it is, you're going to find a kickback, and that's tough. But just know you're not alone in that, because that's a very common sentiment.
Hmm. I'm gonna use this moment here because we have a couple comments about it in the chat as well. And thank you for the comments and the questions. And like to help land with this, um, if people forgot, or for folks that aren't past guests on the call, we do offer at Rhythmia a bunch of integration resources to help you land once you come. So we have the Our Life app, which is a completely free app that's included in your trip to Rhythmia. Really quickly, if you haven't accessed that yet, you could do that at ourlife.app. Okay. And if you forget your password or haven't logged in before, just click on the forget your password link. But in that, we have weekly live Zoom sessions with Kim Terranova, who probably many of you know from your time on site. We have meditation, breath work, yoga, and the answer is you, daily intentions. We also, to Ben's recommendation, we have the Spotify playlist from each of our lead shamans as going through, and we also have optional one-on-one coaching sessions that you're able to move through. And you can do that actually with either Ben or Dr. Jeff as well. They're available for those sessions. So I just wanted to remind people of all those resources that are available to them. And then another question where I'm going next is like, so there's like the initial landing period, and that could be, it's common to have, from what I'm understanding from both of you, it's common for that to be a little bit challenging to have something of a recalibration. Um, and but probably not everyone. I was a guest, and I could speak for myself. I didn't have a huge recalibration. I was on a little bit of a, I would say, I integrated quite well, I would say personally, and that's thanks to the program. And but then I think there's another thing, and I've heard this before myself, of like I go home, I integrate very well, and then maybe 6 months later, 12 months later, it just kind of seems to wear off. And there's also a little bit of question of that. It's like, that like the resources are great, the apps are great, but it's like the intensity or like the strength of the experience that I have, it kind of wanes. And I wanted to know, like, if you're maybe, let's just say, if you've drifted a bit, like, what are some of the ways that we could maybe get back on track?
Can I say a little bit about the neurochemistry behind that issue? And then Ben, if you
Amazing.
want to follow up with like behavioral stuff, I think that'd be a
Hmm.
good combo for that question. So when you drink ayahuasca and go through the Rythmia Way program, what happens is you're accessing your amygdala, a part of your brain that holds unresolved subconscious emotion and has a lot of memories there. And what you're doing is you're creating a neuron pathway through synaptic plasticity in your brain. It goes from the amygdala through the hippocampus to the prefrontal cortex. And that's where you have these visions or these memories come, or you're like, oh my gosh, like that's why I drink too much alcohol, or all these kind of clarifications and awarenesses. And then you have a psychosomatic release where you let go of all the things you've been holding on to. So once you do that, your intention that you have for that evening in the ayahuasca session or in the breath work or in the other classes is an intention that's personal to you, or it's one of our three intentions. So some of us might have an intention, I want to be in a healthy relationship. So that's the thing. I don't want to fear intimacy. So that's where your mind is really open to an intention. It's often represented as Ben and I explained in the Thursday class by the visual kaleidoscope colors that some of us see. So that is the intention gets locked into your brain. And so you have this pathway that's new. The old pathway of fear of relationships, not trusting, resistant to other people, you've been walking on that pathway for a very long time, your whole life. That's a very ingrained pathway you have neurochemically. But you've just created a new one that's brand new. The analogy is in the jungle, you've hacked away and cleared a path and you've been running on it for years, and so have lots of animals and all kinds of people. So it's a good pathway. It's clear. It's wide open trail, but you just barely hacked through with a machete this new pathway. So you have to walk on it. You have to let the other one get grown over by the jungle and not use the old one and walk on the new pathway, which is what we're talking about, which is integration. And that's where you start to create this response that's more beneficial for you and helpful. So I think what's happening neurochemically in the mind when it's 6 months later, a year later, you feel like you're kind of like, I don't feel the effects like I did. And that's because you probably have slipped back into the old way of walking on that neurochemical channel. You got to continue to walk on the new one that you've created through an intention.
Yeah, I think that's the best analogy ever. It's the perfect way to think about it. It's like we want to walk the new path, and it's quite literal too. It's like you actually want to put into real practice some form of action of those insights so that you can actually really ingrain that new neural pathway. Some of what we're doing is making sure when we're integrating is making sure that we're not doing certain things just as much as we are doing other things. So some of the things that we're not doing are the specific insights, the specific areas of our lives where we got insight around, wow, I'm really aggressive, or I'm really a people pleaser, or I overcommit, or whatever our insights are about the things that we're doing that are getting in our own way or problematic. We need to learn to let go of those actions, see them coming a mile away. And this is only done through experience. It's only done through actually experiencing. And when you're approaching that opportunity to slowly start to, divert back to the more enlightened neural pathway, the more enlightened idea, or the new thought, the new path. And so sometimes when we're thinking about the 6 month or 12-month period, and it doesn't feel as intense or something like that, we want to think about this as a real relationship with ourselves. We talk about merging with our own soul, coming back to our true nature, healing our heart. That's what we have to keep coming back to. That's really what we're integrating into our new lives, the new chapter of our lives when we come back from working with the medicine, from coming back from Rythmia. And so when you think about what that is like, it's like a new relationship. And so when you fall in love, sometimes there's a certain kind of chemistry or fireworks that's not going to be there in the same way that a steady long-term relationship is. And so what you're doing now is developing a steady long-term healthy relationship with yourself. It's not always super duper intense. Sometimes the ayahuasca experience itself is very intense, and sometimes it unlocks our emotional capacity for greater love, greater intensity in our lives, more passion. And so sometimes those things are still there, and there is a greater capacity for love and beauty and appreciation and joy and gratitude, all those things. But it is real healing. It's not a dopamine high. It's not a drug, it's real healing. So it's more like a long-term, steady, healthy thing that we level up into. It's more like an initiation into a new chapter. And so when you think about it being a new chapter, sometimes we don't make absolutely every single change when that new chapter. If you're reading a 33 chapter book, chapter 1 and chapter 33, there's a whole journey that goes there. And so sometimes we have to take that path one step at a time and be really patient with ourselves and do a little bit better today. And tomorrow I'm going to keep trying again.
And so I guess there's a question on this too, and I'm just trying to integrate that too. It's like, because so about 70% of the guests that come to Rythmia, and I think Dr. Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but really the Rythmia way is a kind of like a one and done model where you come here, you're looking to up level, you're looking to get some breakthrough, you're looking to heal something, you come, you go through the week and it's gone, and you back into your life and you reintegrate into your life. But 30% of people come back. So I guess like the question is like, you know, maybe distinguishing like, yeah, like how would you think about that if you're someone that's thinking about, okay, like maybe like you said, maybe it's like I'm not feeling that same intensity, and maybe someone, do I need to go back? Is this something that I need to do again? Or like, yeah, I'm curious. What do you think?
Well, yeah, you're accurate on the amount of people that come back. It is 30%. And so what's the difference really between the 70 that don't and the 30 that do? Aside from, let's say, economic reasons or logistical reasons, let's say emotional reasons, what's the big difference? I think the people we see returning want to go deeper. And they also might have gone through something recently since their
Mhm.
last trip that's been very hard, a death in the family, a new job, or they got fired, or they had a divorce or a breakup, or something significant happened, or they have an empty nest situation where their kids are all gone from the house and now they kind of trying to find a life purpose. So there's a lot of reasons people come back. Also, they want to bring with them friends and family. We see that a lot, and they want to accompany people that they're with. And another reason, just to get it out of the way, which is beautiful, is that they kind of have a reunion sometimes with people they first came with. So we see people come back like once a year sometimes to reunite with people they met and bonded with the first time they were there. But I think in the context of what we're talking about with integration, I believe that most people, when I talk to them after I teach the 9 class, because it's all alumni, they come up to me and they say, "This has been a wild couple years. I've had these amazing shifts, but I'm kind of like unsure how to proceed. I really felt a lot of safety in your program, and I did this great amount of work, but it kind of got me to a baseline where now I need to like make a move and shift into this new chapter, like Ben explained." And so we
Mhm.
see people come back to get that sort of to continue the momentum to help them feel confident as they move forward.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I love is that when you do come back, Jeff's mentioned it a few times, the 9. We go from the 3 intentions, and you always come back to those. Every time we come back to it, those are still sort of the umbrella process that we begin with. But you have 9 more intentions. And the more you work with the medicine, the more you do have that sort of multi-dimensional experience of it. And so there's something really special about going from the 3 intentions to 9 more intentions. And the way it's guided is a lot more personal. So you're reflecting on those particular 3 gifts, 3 awarenesses, and 3 freedoms. Those are the 9, and they're very specific. And there's a space in a special alumni workbook just to sort of meditate on what the energy of those particular things are, and you reflect on it in a more intimate way. So there's something really special about how the Rhythmia Way program does continue when you do come back. And there
Mhm.
is a space for a deeper expansion, a deeper exploration. And to have the guide rails for that, it's still very open. It still allows for a lot of uniqueness for the individual experience. But to have those guide rails, it's like an excellent hand to lift you up into the next thing, into the next chapter, into the next version of yourself, next mind, next realization, new neural pathways, whatever you want to call it. And so the guidance of that is actually really special too.
Mhm. Wonderful. And so, like, to kind of summarize that, what I'm hearing from both of you is that there's kind of like some deeper issue usually on the first time, and we work through that and we get to some kind of like baseline level where my life is great. I've dealt with those issues, and now I feel like there's another level. And this was Rhythmia was a really safe environment for me to go through what I had to go through before. And now I'm in this transition, and this is a safe environment for me to go through into that next stage in life. I'm wondering, so
I just
um,
want to say real quick,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
also some people just see this as a new part of their self-care. So like Jeff was
Mhm.
saying, some people come every year and it's really just sort of a cleanse, a reset, a spiritual retreat, a deepening of their process, you know? And so there is also sort of almost like a elite wellness biohacking type of contingency
Mhm.
that comes in for self-care types of purposes.
So then I want to ask this kind of direct question, I would say, that it's like, how do I know when it's time to come back?
That's a great question, and I think it's similar to the same sort of vibe you felt when you were called to come to Rhythmia the first time. We
Mhm.
always hear from guests on property their first time that the ayahuasca and the Rhythmia program was working before they even got here. It's so wild, and so there was a calling. They felt the urge to come back. I was sitting in the airport the other day with a lady. I overheard her talking about some surfing stuff in Costa Rica. And I said, "Oh, did you try this one spot?" And so we got to talking, and she goes, "What do you do in Costa Rica?" And I said, "Well, I help run an ayahuasca facility that has a life advancement program." And she said, "Oh my gosh, what is it? Is it Rhythmia?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "I told myself that I would be called and have synchronicities happen if I was ever supposed to drink ayahuasca, and my friends all wanted me to, and now I'm talking to you and we're on the plane together, I'm going." And so that was sort of like an important moment for this lady I was speaking to. She felt called, not from just my conversation, but from all these things happening in her life that kind of converged at once. And so that's what gets people there the first time often. And so it's a similar energy for alumni to want to come back. They kind of feel like they're being pulled to come back for some reason. And it's often based on, like we said earlier, going deeper, healing relationships, new frontiers for them to move forward, continue the momentum, work on the nine. People are really intrigued by what that is, and it's super cool. So I think they're going to feel a similar vibe of a calling like they did the first time.
Wonderful. And did you have anything you wanted to add, Ben, or
No, I think I was
that's
gonna just say that I think you tend to have like a intuitive call into it, and that's also sometimes, in my opinion, the best way to do it. Sometimes we want to bring all of our friends and family, but sometimes it needs to be a personal decision, to come.
Wonderful. And at this point, um, I'm not sure if everyone on the call is aware of this, but I do want to point out that for all of our past guests, we do offer a $1,000 forever discount. So if you've been to Rhythmia before, anytime you come back, you get $1,000 off. That's just not valid on the triple rooms. And all you have to do is identify yourself as a past guest. So that's pretty awesome. And one thing that if you haven't been, that we launched very recently is our new preparation module. So our Life app has been out for about a year and a half now. So that's the integration when you get back. That's our 13-week program. Which, by the way, there was a question about this. You do continue to have access to that program once the 13 weeks are over. You have forever access to that program as well. But we launched a preparation module. So it's in the same application. So you don't have to download a new application. It's in the same application. And we provide, Dr. Jeff, it's 30 days, right? There's a,
Correct.
yeah.
30,
So
30, 35 days prior to arrival, you can have access to the prep.
yeah, wonderful. Did you want to say a couple things on that quick? Just what's in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I host those every Monday
yeah.
and I won't say the time necessarily because everybody's around the world here, but
Mhm,
on the Pacific coast, it's at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time.
mhm,
So, but that could be
Mhm.
different for you. So anyway, what I do is I just get people ready to come to Rhythmia because sometimes when people do their phone intake and their sales intake with Daniel or whoever their sales agent is, and then there's like a couple months for some before they arrive, they might have started some new protocol of a supplement or a med. And I just want to make sure that they're really clear about how to be safe coming into the program. And I also talk about the dieta, the preparation, how to get your body ready, your mind, your spiritual self, how to get it all on board. Then I answer questions. And it's a really good vibe. I interact with everybody that's on the call and I take questions from people. And it's just like a really nice way to kind of ease into it and feel safe as you come to Rhythmia because people often are nervous. Even you guys as alumni, you're nervous too, even though you know what it entails and what it's about. Still facing yourself and getting this information can be a little,
mhm,
intimidating for all of us. And
mhm,
that's okay. We're all in the same boat on that. I'm nervous every time I drink ayahuasca. I'm not scared, but I'm nervous because it's going to show me some things that I know I need to change.
mhm, Great. So just to clarify, so that's free for everyone. And Dr. Jeff, just like Kim, we had a lot of great comments already about Kim's sessions that are happening weekly. Dr. Jeff also has a weekly session that's in that prep module. So there's the weekly sessions with Jeff, and then when you're home, there's the weekly sessions with Kim.
And what we do, just to clarify for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
prep session, is
yeah.
that you have access to that as an alumni if you're booked to return. So it's
Mhm,
not something that if you're not booked to return, you would really need because it's just getting people that are ready to come down. It's usually first time guests. That's the bulk of it. But we've had alumni on there, but they have a date that they're coming back for their second trip or third or whatever it is. So just
mhm.
to clarify that, you have to have like a booking date in the future to get into that app on that
Wonderful.
part. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think now is a good time to jump into the Q&A portion of the evening. Or again, wherever you are. For me, it's an evening. Um,
Mhm.
I actually want to start with a question from a recent guest. And so it's like a just landing integration question. Okay. Um, and I won't I so just by the way to everyone, you're able to ask questions anonymously or with your name. I didn't say that before, so for all the questions that have already occurred, I'm just not going to use the name. And then moving forward, if there's a new question that comes in, I will assume that you want to share your name if it's there, just so everyone knows. But we'll start with this portion. So please feel free to share all of your questions. You just type them into the chat, okay? So this one is one that is a person that just landed, and they're saying my first 2 nights coming home, I slept like a baby. But then the next 2 nights, I woke up in the early hours of the morning, feeling like I'm back in ceremony, and I'm sweeping stuff away from me. Is this a normal thing? Um, and I'm kind of getting headaches at nighttime as well. Yeah.
Van, you want to take that?
Yeah, first of all, it is definitely normal. It's definitely within the normal range. It doesn't happen to everybody that way, but it is absolutely within the normal range of experience. What you want to do for things like headaches and everything is just check back in with your nutrition. You have gone through a huge cleanse, a huge detox, and so there are going to be things that your body needs. Anytime you go off of a cleanse, there's always recommendations for eating really clean, making sure you're hydrating well. So things like magnesium to support circadian rhythms, to support sleep, things like taking electrolytes, just like when you're here. We always say, eat like you are eating when you're here. And when you're here, we're giving you lots of electrolytes and lots of coconut water and lots of healthy food. So that's one of the best things that you can do if you're having a physical symptom, is really, really make sure you're doing the things for your physical body that you do when you're here for your body. So really making sure you're getting good rest, making sure you're supplementing, hydrating, eating really clean, and doing something active. You know, we do have the gym here, we have yoga here, so keep that in mind. So it doesn't mean that I start to get my 10,000 steps in a day. Doesn't mean that I join a new yoga studio nearby and start taking a few yoga classes a week. Things like that are really good to think about. And then if you're feeling like you're in ceremony, if by that you mean you're having really strong lucid dreams or a lot of insights or emotions come up, then journal it. Just be so grateful that the neuroplasticity is still engaged. It's actually really challenging to engage neuroplasticity in our regular lives. That's why it's so hard to change habits. So if it's still engaged like that, take really, really good care and keep coming back to your intentions, just like you would if you were in ceremony.
You have to remember that you've opened up the channels for your own natural DMT to start flowing. And so when you take a little extra DMT in the ayahuasca drink, you kickstart your own process. And so the ayahuasca that you drink, it's the half-life is 2.5 hours. It's out of your system by the time you're home. But your own neurochemistry, your own DMT is still firing, and that's why you're having these dreams and these sort of events in the middle of the night. It will balance out. Your body will go through what's called a homeostasis process of calibration and balance. So just be patient. Like Ben says, take advantage of those moments to have intentions met and get clarity.
Mhm. Um, this one, this next question has to do with integrating big things that occurred during the week at Rythmia. Okay, so the question is that, so I saw several lucid visions at Rythmia. Some seem so big and unrealistic, and I wonder, are they symbolic or are they telling me something about the future?
I
I
think
love
the
this
one thing that
question.
oh, sorry.
No, you do it, Ben. I'll follow up. I love this
Okay.
question. It's a great
Yeah, I
question.
love this question too. It's one of the most important ones.
We get it all the
Um,
time.
we are working with the unconscious mind when we see these visions. And so they're symbolic, but they're not symbolic in a way where you should go to ChatGPT and say, what does this symbolism mean for this? It's more like metaphorical and energetic. So, for example, I had a guest here who said, I had this like huge vision of all of New York City flooding and being completely destroyed, and it was completely gone. And now I feel like I shouldn't go back there because I feel like it's going to be destroyed. She lived there, and it was a huge, very meaningful vision that felt really, really real to her. Like it was a real vision of the future. And when we started to work with it, she started to realize that a whole part of her life was changing. She started to feel the actual energy. When we say, how does it make you feel? Remember, that's how we're interpreting the visions. That's how we work with the energy of the visions. How does it make you feel? And so when we started to talk about how that vision made her feel, it made her feel like a whole part of her life in New York, who she was in New York, what New York symbolized for her life was over. And she was ready to step into a new chapter. She already had another life happening in another place, a new chapter happening somewhere else. And so when we actually brought it down to reality, when we integrated it, she realized, you know what, this actually is a message for me personally. And so that, in my opinion, is the primary, healthiest, clearest, psychologically sound way to approach that type of vision.
The analogy I give is like in downtown Manhattan, like New York, let's say Fifth Ave and Broadway, like very busy intersection, one of the busiest in the world. And if there's a car accident there, and you ask everybody that saw it what they saw, you would get 500 different versions of that accident visually what happened. But if you ask everybody how they felt when that happened, they're all going to say the same thing: scared
Mhm.
and worried. And so when you have these visions and these sort of big events, the more important part of it all, in my opinion, is the emotions that are associated with it: fear, anger, worry, love, happiness, excitement. Those are the things that are more important. It's a vehicle on certain situations to release some of this emotion you're holding on to. Like sometimes we don't remember where this fear comes from when we were 4. It was a long time ago, but so it's manifesting in a scary way about something that's kind of maybe a Friday the 13th movie. And so it's like, no, nobody's going to try to kill you. There's not a serial killer looking for you. It's just that there's a fear that you're letting go of, and that's a symbolic representation of that.
Wonderful. The next question, I'm gonna just take a little quick answer on this one. It's a more of a nuts and bolts question, and it's someone that's interested in working at Rythmia and how do I get job opportunities. So what I would say is that you could reach out to us on our website in our contact us form anytime. And also, I wanted to share a new opportunity that we have for those of you. So I think probably most of you will know about our referral program. We talk about it when you're on site. We recently launched a new affiliate program. So for those of you that are trying to get involved with Rythmia, send people here, and maybe earn something in doing it, we recently launched a new affiliate program that's kind of those of you that are in the influencer space or content creators, where we offer a commission on each guest that you're able to bring to Rythmia. So you can find more details on that. It's at rythmia.com/affiliates. Rythmia.com/affiliates. So I just wanted to share that one quickly. I have a question. The next question is about it's a returning guest, and she's one of our guests, like many that want to bring people along, and she's asking that about what is the oldest age of a participant? There's a parent that wants to come along. Would this be a contraindication? Would they be allowed to come? So just wanted to pop that one in there.
Well, we don't have an age limit on the higher end of it. You have to be 18 to come. But as far as parents and people that are older, we've had a 96-year-old woman come and did awesome and extended 2 more weeks. So it's definitely appropriate to have people of all ages, as long as they're medically cleared and everybody passes the intake exams on the phone that you clear with your sales agent. So having somebody come and accompany another guest, if they're not participating in the program, we've had that before. So there's one person that's going through the whole program, and then the other person's kind of just chaperoning. And we don't recommend that. We recommend that person participates as well. Now, there's exceptions. There's things that maybe somebody is contraindicated and can't, because of meds or heart conditions, they can't drink the ayahuasca, but they can do everything else. That's okay. That part would be great. And then you can provide us support that's appropriate. But what we're trying to get at Rythmia, as you know, as alumni, we're trying to get the individual to be empowered within themselves. And so if it's possible for that individual to do that work on their own without a chaperone, that's great. But if somebody's really scared and the parent wants to come and support their kid or something like that, that's also fine. And we've had that happen. But we don't want the person that's going through the program to rely excessively on that other person that's there to kind of help support them, because we have over 200 staff that can do that, right?
Yeah, we have a
And
lot of support.
exactly. Yeah, Ben runs all that supportive department, right?
So I have a follow-up for you, Jeff, a quick one, and then I have a question for you, Ben. So the first one, because this is a similar theme, and this is someone that's returning and they're thinking about coming back. They want to go deeper. They want to bring some loved ones, and they're wondering, is slightly less than a year too early to return? Like, what's the right time period?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've had people come back less than a year all the time. I think it depends, like I was saying earlier in the webinar, a little bit about, like, do you feel called to come back sooner than a year? Do you feel like there's something you're going through? And if you're bringing friends and family, the sooner the better. So you can come with them right away, because we want to get them on board with the same energetic feel that you're in. And so you guys can communicate in that way based on the program you've all been through.
Mhm. And now, Ben, this one's for you. So this this is Sherry, because now this is after my PSA. She's wanting to confirm. So the practices of breath work, yoga, meditation, journaling, etc. Are we expecting our guests to do that every day, or is it incorporating one or two daily? And then what will help best to kind of maintain that miracle status and to continue to move forward as we want?
Well, as a meditation teacher, I've always said 5 minutes a day is more beneficial than a annual 10-day retreat. So if you are doing some type of practice that's right for you, we got to realize that this is highly individual. And we're not trying to make you go be anyone else. We're just trying to support you in expanding, growing, and changing. So if for you, you've never done yoga before ever, then once a week yoga might actually have a really big impact for you. For someone that's already a super athletic person and does like is like a total bodybuilder, maybe them switching from something really intense to something more like yoga might be a good shift for them. And maybe they go 6 days a week. And so it's really more about looking at your own life and saying, you know what, I scroll a lot. So maybe instead of scrolling on social media, I read a really healthy book. I go out to eat a lot at junk food restaurants. Maybe I skip the Diet Coke and I drink more water or something a little healthier. So there's the whole thing is we list all those because those are options. Those are examples. Why yoga? Because it's body, mind, and soul. And so that's what we like about yoga because it helps us really, really integrate. It's an integration practice in itself. But the breathwork practices, meditation, going for a mindful walk, um, having a regular therapist, checking in with the Kim Terranova integration class, these are all different ways of you coming back to that empowered version of yourself, that empowered aspect of yourself. So one of the things that you can do is take a moment with yourself and say, well, what should my practice be? Is there something I can commit to doing every day or most days? Is there something that's more like a once or twice a week type of thing? And make it work for you. It should feel like something that you can organically lean into. And it should never be something where you're now hard on yourself or judging yourself or, falling back in old self-destructive thinking patterns because you're not doing it good enough or whatever. So if you're gonna journal, if you're gonna do meditation, yoga, or whatever, just make sure that you're doing it more or in a new way than you did before. So it's all about you taking a step forward in your life, not about you adapting into, some pre-prescribed program.
So we're almost at time here, but there's two questions that I'd really love to take. I think the first one can be handled. I think we could both do both succinctly, and I think they're both important to the call. Um, we good for that, gentlemen?
Let's
Yes.
do
Okay,
it.
and then I'll sign us out. Okay, so the first one, I think maybe this one is and Sherry's expressing gratitude for that response. So thank you so much. This one I'm going to send to you, Dr. Jeff. I have a friend who is in recovery. She's interested and curious if it would be considered relapsing. Um, they want to hear your take on that.
Good. So I'm going to answer that question, but I also want to point you to a podcast I did, and it's called The Addicted Mind. And I did a podcast on there recently. If you scroll through the episodes, you'll see a 1 hour discussion about people in recovery and plant-based medicines and psychedelics for them. So everybody is different on how they view their recovery. We don't want to have anybody fall back into old patterns where it could cause a triggering relapse, obviously. So this ayahuasca is very different than LSD, ketamine, psilocybin. And the reason is because the active ingredient in ayahuasca is already in your body. So you're not creating something for yourself that's like this foreign substance that's an escape. Drugs and alcohol are based on two things for people that have an addiction. They're pushing away emotions and they're trying to block and not absorb things that they're going through in their life that are hard. And so this process of Rythmia does not do that. It does the opposite of that. Helps you get awareness and handle things that are hard. So there are some hardcore 12 steppers and some sponsors like they'll set you up back to day zero if people do this. But I think you have to get past that and think what's right for you. What makes you feel safe and comfortable in your recovery? There's been a lot of people in recovery that have come to Rythmia and it's only enhanced their recovery. But there's some people that won't do it because they feel vulnerable in it and they don't want to mess up the program they have. And that's also totally okay. So I think it's going to be an individual decision.
Okay, wonderful. So, gentlemen, I'm going to call it. And the first thing that I would like to do before I thank you two is thank everyone that showed up today. I see a lot of familiar names, and it's wonderful to see you. And thank you, all of you, for the messages of gratitude, for the app, for the resources, and everything. We send all that gratitude right back to you. And if you're doing great and never need to come again, we were sending you so much love. And if you make the choice to come back, we're looking forward to seeing you again. I also just want to remind people that our team is available here for you at any time. You can go to our website, you can give us a call. Our guest consultants are there for you within the app. You have access to these resources, to Ben, to Dr. Jeff. So I wanted to remind you all of that. And then lastly, I would like to thank our speakers today. I would like to thank Dr. Jeff. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing all that you brought today. And same thing to you, Ben. Thank you so much for everything you brought, for your answering of these questions. And thank you for everything you do every day. Okay. Signing out, wishing all
Thank
of
you,
you a
Jacob.
wonderful night.
Thank you. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see everybody.
See
Yeah.
ya.